Go. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Big Peas in a Podcast. A podcast by a regular guy, me, that's going to talk about things and I'm going to make it funny. We'll talk about things varying from sports to current events to being a girl dad to being a family man to doing what's right, But it's all going to be, it's going to be in great, it's all going to be in good humor. So I got some good stuff for y'all. A little bit about myself. My birth name is Carl Conley Jr. I was born a long time ago. I'm 46 years old, so I'm not old yet. You're only as old as you feel, and I don't feel old at all. I was born into a very Christian home. You'll see a lot of you won't get a lot of religiosity out of me in this podcast, but I do know how I was raised, and I respect how I was raised. I got a good upbringing. So my dad was a preacher, so you know what they say about preachers' kids. I will say things that might be a little offensive on here. I do curse. Like I said, I'm human. I do say some very choice words. My sentence enhancers are awesome. But no disrespect to my parents and how they raised me, and like I said, preachers' kids are usually the worst kids. At least that's what y'all think. I spent 4 years in the Marine Corps in 1996 to 2000. I did a couple of Mediterranean deployments and got to see a lot of the world that a lot of people from my hometown never seen. Speaking of my hometown, I'm from a little town called Pisgah Forest, even though it's really not a town because it's not incorporated. But when I tell people I'm from Pisgah Forest, the first thing they want to say is Pisgah National Forest. No, not Pisgah National Forest. I live in Pisgah Forest, or, on a little small road called Hudlin Gap, which we call the river. That's what Pisgah Forest is. It's the river. And we call the people that live there river rats. Much respect to the river. Shout out to everybody from the river. Listen, I'm a sports guy. We're going to talk a little bit about sports sometimes. I'm a Steelers fan, a Braves fan, and I pull for the Tar Heels and the Tennessee Volunteers. So, moving into some good stuff, let me tell you how I got the nickname Big Peas. The big come from my size. I'm approximately about 300 pounds, 6'2", so big is natural for me. But Peas was a nickname given to me as a kid by a friend, a couple of friends. Fred Hill and Stephanie Hemphill gave me those names. Shout out to Fred and Peanut. Gave me the names. Started out with "You got more peas in your head than Del Monte" was something Peanut said to me on the bus one morning going to school, because we were such a small neighborhood, tight knit neighborhood. Everybody rode the same bus from elementary all the way up to high school. We all rode on the same bus. So you can just imagine in the 80s when bullying wasn't a thing. You can imagine the tough skin you had to have, because we got picked on by older kids a lot. So that's how I ended up with that nickname. Fred just basically made it stick. He started calling me Peas because he used to come to the house and play basketball, because we had a basketball in the front yard, and the whole neighborhood would be in my front yard playing basketball during the summer and on the weekends. And Fred gave me the nickname Peas, and it just stuck. And at first I didn't like it, but eventually I gravitated to it, and I made it my own. And even today, if you're in my hometown, you will hear people say, "Do you know Carl Conley?" And they'll say, "Who?" You say, "Do you know Peas?" And then there you go. That's how it works, because Carl Conley was my father, and God rest his soul. I lost him this year. And I'm Peas, or Junior, as a lot of people. In my family, I'm Junior. The way this show's going to run, we're going to go 30 to 45 minutes. I'm not going to hold you long, because even though I am long-winded, like I said, I'm a preacher's son, so I can talk forever. Like I said, topics will vary. It's recorded in home. I'm sitting in my kitchen right now. Well, actually, the dining room right now. I'm watching my middle child pour water off ramen noodles, and my youngest is sitting in her mother's lap getting her toenails clipped, I think. So you will hear stuff in the background occasionally, movies or the youngest likes to run around and talk to herself, or while she watches her tablet, you may hear that in the background. So don't think something's going wrong. It's just it is what it is. This is almost ad free. When I say it's almost ad free, mainly because I haven't got a sponsor yet or any sponsors, but I will be looking for sponsors as soon as this thing gets up and running. This is just like I said, this is the first episode. So now that I've got the introductions out of the way, I'm going to hop right into today's topic, and the focus of this episode. I was in school. I was the kid that was always got in trouble for talking. That was me. You could put me anywhere in the room. I don't care where you went. I was very sociable. I was a big key. I was a big social person in the classroom. That's why everybody knew me, because I talked to anybody. It didn't matter where the teacher sat me. The only way she could shut me up is by putting me out in the hall. And even in the hall, I would still find someone to talk to. The janitor, one of the other teachers walking by, a whole class, I talked to them. I stayed in trouble. I ain't even gonna lie. It was like everyday thing with me. Getting notes sent home, getting paddlings and things. Because like I said, I went to school in the 80s. So that was back when they used to beat your ass with a wooden board. 2 or 3 swats, and I had some teachers that were females, and they swung that thing harder than any man ever could. I don't know. It was like they had that whole backhand thing down to the wow right on your ass every time. One of my favorite teachers was Miss Margaret Kilstrom, and she had the meanest swat of anybody. I mean, she paddled me 2 times in the 4th grade, and I didn't get another paddling again until I was in 6th grade, because I did not like that at all, because that was not something I enjoyed. But let me tell you something. Like I said, I'm a very social person, and nowadays, a lot of people have gotten into, since the pandemic, have gotten into mainly keeping to themselves and not being social. And what I mean by that is, social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, has become our major form of communication with our friends and family. I make an effort to stay in contact with a lot of people. But the thing I'm talking about now is the fact that we have totally relied on social media to keep up with people we live right around the corner from. I live 2 minutes away from my mom. I live up the road from my mom. I live about 15 minutes away from my middle sister, and about 15 minutes away from my baby sister. And I can tell you, I can count on one hand how many times I've stepped foot in either of the 3 homes in the last month. One hand, and that's once. I went to my mom's yesterday to help her set up her iPhone. I haven't seen my sisters, either one of them, other than a FaceTime conversation, in about a couple weeks. I take that back. I saw my baby sister yesterday. She was in her car. She was on her way to go pick up my nephew from a birthday party. But like I said, now we're totally reliant on social media, and it's caused a breakdown in how we communicate with one another. No one picks up the phone and checks on anybody anymore. And I say that because I'm one of these people that, I will pick up the phone and call somebody, or I will message somebody to say, hey, how you doing? Out of the blue. And you can ask any of my friends. That's just how I am. But I can count, like today, I can count on probably one hand. No, I ain't gonna say that. That's mean. I can count how many people return that favor. And that's just because, it's just become commonplace to like or heart or put the care thing on a post on Facebook, and not, go physically or actually just check on somebody. That's become commonplace. So what caused it? And, like I said, the pandemic had a lot to do with it. It really did, because, during the pandemic, people were scared to go out in public and, socialize. So socialization became a very, very hard thing to do. I mean, I was out every day because I was what they called an essential worker, even though I have no idea how a printing company is essential. But they figured out a way to loophole themselves into it. And so we all had to go to work every day because, people need their medicines, and, that's the labels. We print the labels, which we don't print the labels at my plant. We just provide the implements to print the label. I'm getting off subject, but but listen, during the pandemic, people just got to where they just not checking on people. Like, I'm not going to go by because I don't want to carry this into somebody's home. And now, we're on the tail end of the pandemic. COVID's still around. Now we got the monkeypox. So people are really just trying to just stay away from people. You'll even go in the grocery store now, and I see people that I've known for years. They'll walk by you and just keep moving. They'll nod or wave or something. But I grew up in an era where when you saw somebody you knew, you stopped and you talked. You asked them how they were. You asked them how their mother was, and how you doing? How your mom and them? You know what I'm saying? That's the era I grew up in. So, and you fellowshiped with your neighbor. Nowadays, I can't tell you. I know who my neighbors are. I tend to try to like some of my neighbors. I got one neighbor that I'm not too fond of, but they're I can tell you how many times I've actually been in their house. The neighbor across the street, never. Even though I've known that man since I was a kid. The people that live beside us, I know both of them, and I've never been in their house. Back in the day, it wasn't nothing for kids to go to other people's houses all day long. It was which house are the kids hanging out? For us, it was my friend Rico. We all went to his house because they had the biggest front yard, so we played football in their front yard, or we played football in the street. We played 2 square in the street or 4 square in the street. That's nowadays kids don't get out. They don't socialize. They spend their entire summer with a screen in their face. And that's what I'm talking about. It's just, kids don't get out and do things or socialize, so because the adults don't socialize. I can tell you some stories that, that it'll blow your mind that, there's people that just don't leave the house anymore. I can get everything because now they just made it easier, because now you can order food, groceries, everything. You can have it delivered to you now. So, socialization has become less personal. And like I said, I blame technology and social media for a lot of that. And it's because people just don't want to be out there anymore. But to my point, people have to learn how to get back into social interaction. And because social interaction is important, it's good for your soul. This morning, I received a phone call from a friend of mine, Brandon Jones. We went to school together. We started out friends in time. We went to nursery school together, me and him and his brother Maurice. We all went to the same nursery school, and we just been friends forever. Our parents were friends. His dad's a preacher. Brandon even preaches now, and that's just what I'm saying. We've been friends forever. And today was the first time I have talked to Brandon in a good minute, and it was because he just felt that in his heart, or God put it on his heart to call me. So he called me, and we had about a 2-hour conversation this morning. And let me tell you something. It was very uplifting, and that's what people need. Sometimes people just want to be heard, or some people need to hear something good. And this morning, Brandon told me something good, and that was what I needed, and that's why I said social interaction. Even on the phone, that's social interaction. That's hearing somebody's voice, because through Facebook and Instagram and all these other social media apps, you don't get tone. You cannot inflect tone in a text. You can't do it. I have a friend that I text quite often, and she misunderstands a lot of things I say, because tone is not, you can't convey tone in text. You cannot do it. So sometimes she'll say something that I may take offense to, or I'll say something she takes offense to, and that's just how things are. You cannot convey tone through text, and that's the problem. That's why socialization and society is starting to break down because of it, because we don't know how to communicate with each other anymore. Like I said, I pick up the phone, I call people. I like to talk to people. I like to talk. You can ask my wife. I'll talk your head off. She hates to go to Walmart with me, because it's just basically I walk into place and It's like, what is it? You ever seen the videos of celebrities walking down the red carpet? You know, they'll stop and talk to every news outlet, every reporter, and you know, a lot of times if their wife's not a celebrity, their wife's just kind of shrugged off in the background, you know, kind of walks behind them. And my wife sometimes says she feels like that when we go to Walmart because, you know, our local Walmart, everybody and their mama, it's the only Walmart in town, so everybody and their mama goes there. So we walk in and, you know, there's people all over the place and they're all talking to me and everything. And that's just, you know, that's just how it is. But that's because of who I am. I'm a social person. But I like that interaction. I love that interaction. I like to interact with people. I like to meet new people. I like to talk to people. It's like, you know, I can walk into a room full of strangers and walk out with a room full of friends. That's the type of person I am. And people like that are very rare and hard to find nowadays because a lot of people like to just hide and be in their own little bubble. And I get that. The world's gotten scary. It really has. So I understand the need to want to maintain your peace in your bubble. I get it. I'm not condemning that in any way, shape, or form. I think that's a good thing. If you feel at peace being at home in your own personal space and not having people in your face all the time, then hey, I'm not going to knock you for it. But you know, like I said, society's starting to break down because we don't know how to interact with one another anymore, and that's a big thing with me. Like my friend Brandon that called me this morning, we were talking about that, you know, how people don't talk to one another no more, or how people like he and I, we're kind of like a lot alike. We are constantly giving of ourselves to other people, you know, without getting in return. And the analogy he used was you're like a cup, and you pour what's inside of you into other cups, into other people, and eventually you're empty. And it's happened. That's happened to me recently. You know, I've put a lot into some people, and a lot of effort and a lot of stress and strain in some people, and I didn't get any enrichment or any fulfillment back. So I didn't have anybody fulfilling me to talk, you know, telling me, hey, this, that, and the eighth, you know. But this thing, that what he said had rung so true, because a lot of the times you need to be refilled, and how you refill me, or how you refill people that socialize a lot, is through social interaction, social media, not social media, sorry, just social interaction, you know, like hearing someone's voice. It's always good to hear someone's voice. When my father died, I talked to people that I hadn't spoken to in 20 years. And that's a shame because, you know, we were all tight when we were younger. Like I said, this social media thing's made it easier to stay away from people. And, you know, but I'm a very personable person. And so when my father died and I talked to friends that I hadn't talked to in 20 years, you know, be it face to face or over the phone, it made me feel some type of way because, you know, where were you? Where have you been the last 20 years? You know, I see your pictures. I see, you know, you're living a great life. And it's the same with me. I could just pick up the phone and do it the same way. And, you know, it took my father passing away for me to really, 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 really look at that as if, you know, this is a bad thing. I want to be more of a friend to people. I want to be more involved with people. And that it took my father down, because that's the way my dad was. My dad, man, he'd get in a car and he'd go to somebody's house and he'd be there all day. He'd be there all day. I mean, he'd just be there. But he always had people he could go talk to. And, you know, my dad was a big personality, and he fulfilled people the same way I do. So social interaction was good for my father. But, you know, so when my father became ill and, you know, couldn't get out, and you could tell it bothered him that he couldn't get out and go places and walk around and talk to people. It bothered him. So, because he needed that. And that's what I try to tell people a lot of times. You need social interaction with people. You've got to get out there. You've got to talk to people. But like I said, if you're comfortable in your own bubble, I'm not condemning that in any way, shape, or form. Do what makes you comfortable. And I do mean that. Do what makes you comfortable. Now, I promised y'all that this was going to be funny. And I really haven't been that funny because this is a serious topic for me. But I'm telling you, you know, being socialized, you can't get great stories. You know, comedians, There's a lot of good comedians out there nowadays, and some of them, the best ones, are the ones that tell you these great stories about real shit, stuff that they've seen, they've done. They get this from social interaction. You know, Kevin Hart, great comedian, and he talks a lot about his interactions with his family, his friends. You know, the Plastic Cup Boys. You know, shout out to them. He talks about his relationship with them. You know, Kevin Hart was even bold enough to put himself out there even after he got caught cheating, which, you know, is something I would have never done. If I'd have got caught cheating like he did, I think I'd have went into hiding for at least a year and wouldn't have came out. But, you know, you can't make money hiding in the house if you're Kevin Hart, you know. So shout out to Kevin Hart for that. But listen, that social interaction makes for great comedy. And, you know, you never know who you're going to meet. And there's an old saying my dad used to tell me, you never know where a good word's going to come from. So that being said, I'm going to tell you a story. Not too long ago, I was not at work. I was on my way home from work, and I stopped in a grocery store. Not a grocery store, but a convenience store. Went in, and I do what I normally do. I walk in, grab a soda or a drink out of the drink thing, and a bag of chips or something to snack on the way home, which is, you know, I get in trouble for because usually my wife's cooking something for dinner when I'm on my way home, and she gets mad if I don't eat. You know how women are. You know, if you don't eat, that's like a slap in the face. So, you know, she gets mad when I don't eat right because, you know, sometimes I will stop and grab a snack on my way in, but I always try to eat. Once again, getting off topic, but in the store there was this little dude. And I say little dude because he was, you know, short in stature, probably in his early 20s. And he was sitting there and he said to me, he said, "Golly, you're a big guy." And I'm like, "Yeah, I am." I said, I'm pretty big. And he said, "I bet you're a teddy bear." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He said, "You look like a teddy bear. I bet you people squeeze on you and tell you, you know, love on you." I said, "Well, I got a daughter that loves on me. I call her my cuddle monkey, and she will come and squeeze on me." But then I got to thinking, you know what? He's right. I'm one of these people. You know, a lot of people say I'm a hugger. Well, I get hugged. A lot of people hug me, and, you know, I guess I have an inviting frame for a hug. And I've even been told, you know, in the past that I give the best hugs, and that's something I never thought about. And it's really, like I said, the good word from this is, you know, a hug is therapeutic. And I do mean that. A lot of people, sometimes all they need is that physical touch of a hug. And it's non-sexual. It's, you know, it's nothing that's wrong about it. It's just, you know, some people need that. You know, men, we need handshakes and things like that, you know, but sometimes a brother need a hug. And I'm just going to be honest with you. You know, I got, you know, my kids that hug on me. My wife hugs on me. My mama hugs on me, you know, but, you know, sometimes to feel that affection from another person will do you more good than harm. And there's people, like I said, there's people that don't like to be touched. That's fine. But there's people that thrive on social interaction and physical touch. So that when that guy told me, I bet you like to get hugged, I was like, "I do." He said, "You give good hugs, don't you?" I said, "I've been told that. I don't know for sure, but I've been told that." But let me tell you something. Social interaction and physical touch go hand in hand. Sometimes it's as much as little as a handshake or a touch on the not a touch on the shoulder, but a hand on the shoulder, a pat on the back, you know, a fist bump. You know what I'm saying? Just that will change a person's whole outlook on their day. I mean, sometimes you look at a person, and I'm gonna tell you, nowadays, you know, I never even thought this was a thing until I got older. You know, this thing now that the ladies like to call RBF, resting bitch face. And let me tell you something. You'll see a woman walk through the grocery store, and now, because of the way society has turned, you know, now you don't say, "Hey, what's wrong with you?" You just say, "Hello, how are you today?" 9 times out of 10, the facial expression will change. And you're like, "Oh, I'm fine." But, you know, it's nothing. But sometimes people just need to hear, "Hey, how you doing?" Sometimes you say how you doing to somebody, and they may tell you their life story. But listen, They needed that. All they needed is somebody to listen to them for 5 seconds or 5 minutes, and you could change a person's life by social interaction. I'm not talking about texting somebody. I'm talking about picking up the phone and saying, hey, how you doing today? What are you doing? What are you into? And just listen. Because in order to be heard, you have to listen first. And a lot of times people lose that, don't want to be bothered, hit the ignore button when people call. Listen, I answer the phone most every time it rings unless it's a bill collector. And nobody calls me really but bill collectors. We all know that potential spam or unknown number that calls, and the first thing you do is you reach down there and you hit that little phone thing. You slide it to the right. If you got an iPhone, you slide it and you get it out of there. If you got an Android, you just hit the red thing. Hit the X and pull it down into the X. Ain't that what you do with Android? Ain't that what you do with Android, honey?
No, it slides.
Okay, it slides. Okay, so you know what I'm saying. You ignore the call. But when you start ignoring calls from family and friends, and yeah, some family and friends are annoying, and I mean like they're always wanting something. But listen, sometimes they just want to be heard. So take the time to answer the phone every now and then. There was a time in my life where I used to dread getting phone calls from my father. And it was mainly because my dad, like I said, he was a preacher, and I don't go to church like that anymore. I spent the majority of my childhood inside a church. So I don't go to church like that anymore. My daddy would call me, hey, you really do need to go to church. And he was right. I ain't gonna lie, he was right. But eventually what it became to me was him nagging me. And there was times he would call and I would hit the ignore. And the reason why I say this to y'all is because don't let it be that you ignore a phone call and that may be the last phone call you ever get. And I'm telling you that because, I'd give my left arm. You cut off my left arm right now if I could hear my daddy talk to me on the phone. I don't care what he's talking about. Like I said, it was that social interaction. He called all three of us, all his kids. He called all of us all the time. Because when he retired, he was always he was always calling. But that's what I'm saying. He needed that social interaction. And that's why I'm trying to tell y'all, you never know what may come out of a phone call. It's like I had I was NCO in the Marines, and I had one of my former Marines, well, not former, but one of my Marines called me one night, just out of the blue, called me on Messenger. This guy never calls me. But because of who I am, and I always say, if you need me, reach out, and I will answer the phone. I don't care. Usually I don't care what time of day it is. I will answer the phone. And I answered the phone that night. And I was able to talk him out of a bad situation. He wasn't going to do anything to himself. He was going to do something to someone else. And that's what I'm talking about. Be there for people and check on your people. Now, I haven't heard from this young man since because he called me on Facebook and I don't have his number. But he got, I hope he's fine. And I've talked to other friends and they said he's okay. But that's what I'm talking about. Just sometimes all it takes is to listen. Don't give your advice. Don't throw yourself, out there like that. Just listen. That's all people want you to do. And that it takes nothing to listen. I'm talking about you can sit there and just you could be listening. And it don't take anything. That social interaction is important to some people. Sometimes it can be fixed by text message. I will be the first to admit it. I've texted people before. Hey, bro, what's up, man? What's going on? What's up with you? And, I'll get this long message and, and they tell me what's up, and I appreciate that. And they appreciate that because sometimes that's all they need. They need one person to give them the good word. And that's what I got from Brandon this morning was good word. And with that, you got to really, 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 really be there for people. And I mean, that social interaction is important. Very important. Now, as we wind this thing down, because we're right at 30 minutes right now. We wind this thing down. Let let me throw this out here. Let me throw this out here real quick. I am on Facebook, Big P's in a Podcast. Go on Facebook's Facebook page, Big P's in a Podcast. I'm also on TikTok as Big P's. A lot of funny stuff. I do a lot of comedy on Facebook, on TikTok. Some video reactions that you'll see to food. I'm real big on people and what they eat. I love to cook and I love food, but I'm not a foodie. I don't like a lot of weird stuff. You know, people eating weird shit like pineapple on pizza. That's just weird to me. Or people eating pickled okra or okra period, or like I like to call it, chokra. A lot of people eating chokra out there, you know, fried, pickled, slimy. You know, I don't care how you eat it. It's nasty. Like I said, I'm on TikTok as Big P's. I'm on Instagram. I even have a Twitter page, but the Twitter page is, I don't really get on Twitter. Twitter's more of my wife's thing. I don't really funk with Twitter. Twitter got a little too political for me a few years ago, so I got the hell off Twitter. Speaking of political, you will listen to this thing, and I don't mess with politics that often, because the politics is the reason why we're in a lot of the shape we're in now as far as personal relationships in this country. In 2020, politics got so bad that people cut people out of their lives over politics. They really did. And that it just wasn't Republicans, it was Democrats too. They cut people out of their lives over politics. And I just don't understand that, because there's an agree to disagree thing that I like. And I will say, I don't agree with your political stance on this particular subject. But that doesn't mean I don't love you as a person. And so those people you just don't talk politics with. There's a lot of people I still talk to that I just don't discuss politics with them. We'll talk about everything. We'll talk about the weather. We'll talk about the sun, the moon, the stars, the fact that, Will Smith smacked the shit out of Chris Rock. We'll talk about everything, but we won't talk about politics. And that's real. And that's just something I mean that. A lot of people like that, like that thing. If you're a politically inclined person and you talk politics all the time, then that's good for you. I just don't do it. Lastly, first episode, so I hope this went well. Tell your friends about it. Big P's in the Podcast. Be streaming on all your favorite podcast things. I'm still trying to work on getting my Patreon set up. Shout out to Annie Brewster for that idea. I don't have a production team. This is just me, solo me. Here before too long, there'll be a get some guest hosts and things like that, because like I said, I got a lot of interesting people in my life. So with that being said, I'd like to thank you for listening today. And like I said, tell your friends, share this on social media. I'm everywhere. And I would like to say thank you and have a blessed day.